Just stunning. I can't get enough just by looking at this car. It's beautiful. Let's take this thing for a drive. That's where this thing shines also. It's not only beautiful to look at, it's also amazing to drive. This car's not perfect. It's got a check engine, it's got an airbag. It's little stuff. It's not big stuff that affects anything. Very simple car, very basic car. They don't give you too much, but you don't need too much. That's the beauty of it. Nice convertible top. You don't need a whole lot to enjoy it. You just need the driving experience. You got nice shifting buttons. You got a M mode, which holds the gears back. It's a 5-speed. That's the only downside to this car. This is a 5-speed transmission, so on the highway, when you're going like, let's say 100 miles an hour, you're at about 3,500, 4,000 RPM. It would be nice if there was a 6th gear, which the 997 resolved, but the 996, I'm not sure if they came, maybe if the manual ones did. I'm not sure. Somebody can put that in the comments. That's manual mode. Drive, it's just regular automatic. It's going to shift for you. It's actually, I've grown to not hate it as much as I did. I used to think it's very slow, which the shift times on this are a little slow. You got to shift about a second or two ahead of time. But that's okay. It doesn't matter. This car's still okay. A stick shift version would resolve that. But that's besides the point. The automatic is still great for just a convertible cruiser, just to enjoy and drive quick. As you start it up, it gives you a power up. Okay, we're recording. Wipe down this little lens here. I'm trying out new camera angles. I'm trying out to spice things up for this channel. Since it doesn't have a whole lot of weight in the front, it just corners, unlike most of the cars I've ever driven. There's not a whole lot of cars that I've driven that gave me this sort of feeling while cornering. It's almost like a go-kart, where the motor is sort of in the rear, and the steering feels light. It feels extremely light. Well, as far as reliability on these cars, the main big thing a lot of people talk about always is the IMS bearing. I don't have a sticker under the hood of mine that the IMS was done. I don't have any proof that the IMS was done. But when I talk to a couple Porsche enthusiasts, they've all pretty much said that at this mileage, 135,000 miles, if it was to already fail, it would have failed. I guess we're good on that one. It's not very expensive to do the IMS. And the only reason the IMS fails, it's an intermediate shaft bearing. IMS fails due to lack of lubrication, and there's some different fixes for it. There's a way to, like, you can drill a hole, have some oil squirt on the bearing, and that'll make it never fail again. There's a couple different solutions for the IMS, but that shouldn't stop you from owning this car. It's not as big of a deal as people make it out to be. An issue that I've had to deal with, a pretty big one, is the air oil separator in this car. It separates the venting of the oil from the intake manifold. When the air oil separator fails on one of these, a lot of oil depositing into your intake, so every time you start up the car, you get a lot of blue smoke because it's going to start burning that oil on initial startup. It's not a very pleasant thing to see come out of a very nice 911. And that was a big pain in the ass to fix. I did that myself on this car, and technically you're supposed to do an engine out for this because the air oil separator is all the way at the back of the engine. So in order to do this job without taking the motor, without dropping the motor or taking the motor out, you pretty much have to take all the intake plenums off. The whole intake system has to come off. You have to pretty much make a passageway for your hand to squeeze in behind the motor so you can barely see what you're doing to take it out. Honestly, if I had to do that job again, I would just drop the engine because it's not worth doing with the engine sitting inside of the body. It just makes it a bigger pain in the ass for yourself. One of the top motors failed if you have the convertible version. It's common on any older convertible, 20-year-old convertible. They're all the top motors are going to fail. That's normal. Belts, pulleys, alternator, starter, that's normal stuff, normal wear and tear stuff. Recently I changed the front shocks. I made a video on that. Go watch that. I'm going to make a video on changing the rear shocks as soon as those come in. I changed the stabilizer links in the front because they were fully destroyed. Just basic wear and tear stuff, but honestly, I've been driving this car every single day. I put about 5,000 miles on it. Within the last 2 months, zero hiccups. Just little plastic stuff breaking always in these cars. Little plastic brittle clips and pieces that hold stuff in place, like the glove box latch, or I don't know, just like little trim pieces that keep falling off. But mechanically, this car is super sound. Besides the IMS, the air oil separator, a few different pulleys, there's not a whole lot that you have to really worry about in this car. Not only is the steering very unique to this car, and no other car really gives you that sort of feeling, it's the feeling you get driving this car. It makes you feel like $1 million every time. You feel like a champion. I don't know, it's relaxing. It's like therapy, meditation. It's just very pleasant driving this vehicle. And then when you add how quick it is, it's unbeatable. It's, in my opinion, the best. I think it's literally the best 20,000, which is like, that's like the entry barrier for this vehicle. It's the best 20 grand you could spend, just based off of how it makes you feel. It's not the fastest, it's very quick. It's not the fastest. Maybe a V6 Camry might be on par with you, but that's not what it's about. It's about the experience overall as a whole. A BMW, a Mercedes, you're gonna have a lot more issues in the long-term ownership of the car than this one. And the way this car holds its value tells you that. Because remember, anything that's good, highly desirable, highly sought after, it holds its value. That's why you gotta pay for a 20-year-old Carrera at least 20 grand for a decent one. And then for 20 grand, you're getting like, not exactly the one you want. You're getting a higher mileage. You're getting one that maybe has a ding or a dent, a scratch. Good things hold their value. And that's a beautiful thing. This car you can own for 5 years, and more likely than not, you will actually make money when you go to sell it. But the thing is, you won't want to sell it. That's one of these cars where the more you drive it, the less you want to sell it, because it's so special and beautiful, and the feeling it gives you is priceless. There's almost, the only real reason that you really sell this car is if you're in a need for money, or if you value comfort, like if you've gotten so old that like you just can't get in and out of a low car every single day. But I don't see a reason why you would want to get rid of one of these. It makes no sense. Another thing that I do have to fix on this car, the transmission oil cooler, the O-ring started to leak, which is normal. It's rubber, it gets brittle. When rubber gets brittle, it shrinks, it gets hard, it cracks, and then it doesn't seal the same way anymore. So most of the stuff that will fail for you on this car won't be due to a bad design. It's mainly going to be due to age. It's wear and tear items that every car may fail on. So besides the IMS, the air oil separator, and a few little things like that, maintaining this car is a lot like maintaining a Toyota Corolla. Because it's just as simple as that. That's the real beauty of this vehicle. Simplicity. Simplicity wins, guys. Just priceless. Just priceless. Just priceless. You could take highway on-ramps, off-ramps, 100 miles an hour plus, no problem. Zero problems. This car just does everything well. Comfort is the opposite of sportiness. So if you want that sporty, fun feeling, you buy this. You want comfort? You buy an S-Class. You want reliability? You buy a Toyota. I've said it. You can't have them all in one. This car gives you two things. It gives you decent reliability and feeling like a badass, and that's priceless. Feeling like a badass in a car is priceless. No Toyota will give you that one, I'll guarantee you that. This car is extremely stable at high rates of speed. 100 miles an hour plus. This car, not a problem. Cornering, even just being, you know, being stable. Stability is not an issue for this car. It's capable of going extremely fast and at an extremely stable rate. Like, this car doesn't feel sketchy at 150 or 100 miles per hour plus. It feels planted. And it's pretty much what you'd expect out of a German car. German cars are well built. Find yourself one of these before they get unattainably ridiculously expensive. Because if you see what happened to the air-cooled Porsches, people pretty much control the market on these cars. Anything that's highly sought after and highly liked and appreciates in value, people hold on to. People don't really want to let go of these things because they're special, and people know that. And these cars are only going to keep getting more expensive. You're going to keep paying more for the same car with more miles in worse condition. So the earlier you're able to get yourself your hands on one of these, the better. It's sort of like E30 M3s 5-10 years ago. If you knew you would have, you should have, you could have, but you didn't. Same with this. You could have, should have, would have, but didn't. And I'm telling you now you should. So do it. There's gonna be zero regrets, and you're gonna retain your money. That's one of the most beautiful things about this vehicle. You retain your money, or you'll most likely make money. It's kind of funny because you'll put miles, you'll drive it, you'll enjoy it, and you'll more likely than not, probability is higher, that you're gonna, when it comes time to sell this car, you're gonna get what you put into it or more. It's just from looking at the past, that's just how things go. Things of desirability hold their value, and especially like something like this, it's definitely, it's a reliable car that's usable. It doesn't break much besides for the IMS bearing, the air oil separator, some of like the pulleys and a belt to brake. Anybody looking to buy a Porsche, to get into one, this is a perfect starter Porsche to get into, to get the grasp of it, to enjoy it. And then eventually from this you could always upgrade on, but you'll fall in love with this, I can promise you that. You'll fall in love with the experience. Even with the glove box ledge falling off sometimes, you won't even mind it. You'll be okay with it. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next one.